Hello, this is Emma from defeatburnout.com. I'm here every week sharing tips and resources with you so that you can spot the signs of burnout or recover from them as quickly as possible. I burnt out 3 years ago, and I really feel that it's my mission, my responsibility to share my story with other people so they can hopefully spot the signs and take action before they end up in the mess that I got myself into. So I've just published an article on really in-depth guidance on how to recover from burnout. And I wanted to pop onto YouTube to share the 7 top tips. When I sat down and really thought about what helped my recovery, these were the 7 things that I did consistently. I didn't get them perfect. There was lots of trial and error, 1 step forward, 2 steps back at times. But they were the things that really made the difference to me. And the first caveat is I'm not a professionally trained medical professional. I'm just someone who's done lots of reading on burnouts. I've been through a really severe burnout myself, and this is what worked for me. So if you're in the crux of a really severe burnout, especially if you're experiencing mental health issues like depression, do seek the support of a trained medical professional. So with that being said, let's move into the 7 top tips. And the first one really is to recognize the symptoms. Where I went drastically wrong is my burnout was very serious before I even realized or perhaps acknowledged that there was something wrong. So if you can really educate yourself, if you run teams in the corporate world, educate your teams on what the signs of burnout are, people are much more likely to spot them and to take proactive action. So spot the signs, acknowledge them, take action. The second one, it's so basic. You've heard this a million times. It's practicing good self-care. So I think we all know what we need to do. The challenge is doing it consistently. So it's about sleeping enough. I know for me, prior to burnout, I was getting about 4 hours a night. And that 4 hours of sleep was not good sleep because I was on my device until late. There was so much whirring around in my brain. When I actually forced myself to go to bed earlier and to arrive at bed less in work mode, it's been a game changer for me. So I now consistently average about 7 hours a night, which is the right amount for me. Studies show that anywhere between 7 and 9 hours is optimal. So test it out. Force yourself to go to bed earlier. Get off those devices an hour before you go. Try a chamomile tea or a relaxing bath, but test it out and see the effects over a couple of weeks. My guess is if you're anything like me, you'll find it really helps you put things in perspective, eat better, and be more resilient if you've had a good night's sleep. Then obviously there's many other aspects of self-care. I think the biggest thing to overcome is how to do it consistently. And what worked for me is literally a checklist of this is what I need to do and I'm going to tick it off. Not trying to be perfectionist and try to do everything every day, but just reminding myself what's important. So what I'll do is in the description below, I'll put a link to the self-care checklist that I use and give you the template. So if it's helpful, you can use it yourself. The third one, and one of the most difficult, is taking back control at work. So if work is the source of your burnout, you've just been pushing too hard for too long, that says you've got to establish some boundaries, which are so difficult if it's a change in behaviour. I do recognise that. So some small things to start with. Force yourself to have breaks away from the screen. If you've got a smartwatch or a phone with an alarm, put a discreet vibrating alarm on so that you're getting away from your desk regularly. Even if it's just stretching your legs, going to the water cooler, having a walk at lunch, those small things make such a difference. Then it's very, very easy to get overwhelmed with our to-do list, but making sure that you prioritize that list and understand what really is urgent on it and what are the things that are important. If you can spot the urgent and important things, that's where your attention needs to be. There's probably things that are urgent but not important. Can they be delegated to someone else? And if things are not important, not urgent, well, frankly, why are they on the list? Let's get rid of those. There's a really helpful way to structure your to-do list called the Eisenhower matrix, which just gets you putting things in 4 buckets. So you can say, look, important, urgent, that's what I need to focus on now. So prioritize ruthlessly. Also, it's tricky, but you've got to master how to say no. If we don't put our own boundaries in place at work, no one else is going to do that for us. So if you're busy, you're overloaded, and you're agreeing to take on more work, it's a form of abusing yourself. Really, you're training other people that you're always that person who's going to say yes. You're always that person who's going to work into the evening, into the weekend. And certainly in my experience, that results in just getting to the point that you really begrudge what you're doing. You feel undervalued and you just fall out of love with it, versus the person who keeps appropriate boundaries and is able to stay at a steady performance level because they're not compromising their self-care in the process. So yes, many of us want to be helpful and go out of our way to do a great job, but the way to do that is not saying yes to everything. So if that resonates with you, drop me a comment below and perhaps I'll do another video around things I've found helpful in my journey to learn how to say no more consistently. So then number 4, talking about it. This is really difficult. Again, it's probably the thing that I found most difficult in the whole process when I hit burnout, was learning to open up, acknowledge it and talk about it. But the reality is, if we keep everything bottled up inside, then we're just pushing it down, and one day it's going to get to the point that you can't push it down anymore, and kaboom, we explode, we don't function anymore. So for me, by the time I spoke about it, I was struggling to get out of bed. I was in the medical process. So for me, talking about it was going to a cognitive behaviour therapist, because I was at the point that I needed a trained medical professional to help me navigate through it, talk about it. Had I recognised earlier on and just spoken to a trusted friend, or maybe someone who'd experienced something similar, that would have made all the difference in the world to me. Perhaps I wouldn't have got to that point that I was desperately ill with it. So what we know is that we're humans, we need interaction. So find those people who can form your support network. If it can't be someone that you've got a strong relationship with for whatever reason, find a community online that you can hang out with who just understands about burnout and can help wrap their arms around you. And it was really the lack of that in my life, in terms of connecting with other people who'd been through it, that motivated me to pull together this channel and defeatburnout.com. So more to come there in terms of community and support. The next is letting your emotions out. And this is a new one for me, actually. I didn't do this too well in my recovery process. I really should have read this book. So I'm reading this at the moment, Burnout, Solve Your Stress Cycle by Emily and Amelia Nagoski. And it's just amazing. So one of the things I've learned early on is that emotions that we feel can get trapped inside us unless we let them out. So I think naturally when I burnt out, I just lost control of my emotions. I was crying all the time. If you've had a busy, stressful week at work, it's not a case of forgetting about that and congratulating yourself from getting through it when you're at home. You need to give your body some opportunity to get that emotion out of your body, whether it's going and having a little cry, doing some boxing and really getting that emotion out of your body. You need to go through an exercise, a ritual that just frees you from that, whether it's a visualization of everything flowing out of you as you're hitting a punching bag or having a hug. Find what works for you, but let the emotion out. As Emily and Amelia say, go through the whole cycle of the emotion. Then number 6, celebrate progress. Burnout can feel like a never-ending journey to go through. And I remember certainly at the start, I thought, broken for life, nothing is going to fix me. I can't even remember who gave me the advice now, but someone in the cycle of my support at the time said, don't try to be perfectionist about this. Celebrate every step of your progress. So what really worked for me, and I've still got it today, is this journal. In here, I can look back, and on various dates, I just wrote down what I was doing that I was celebrating. So on one day, I did a yoga class, and that was amazing because I was so burnt out and exhausted. Another day, I was actually going away for a break, and my success that day was I managed to pack without crying. So it doesn't have to be big things, but if we can just celebrate every little progress that we make, it makes such a difference to us. So I think really having a book that you use just for this process, or even if it's just notes on your phone, will make a big difference. And then number 7, I still do this today. It's about regular check-ins with your body. So I would say ideally on a daily basis, if not weekly, just stop for a minute, maybe do some writing in a journal, or just kind of sit and think and check in with how you're doing. How is your body feeling? Is your mind whirring? Do you feel quite calm? What's your eating been like this week? What's your digestive system telling you? The more we can be in touch with ourselves, our bodies, the more we are likely to spot anything that's heading in the wrong direction and be able to take proactive action. So they're my top tips for recovering from burnout. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments if you've experienced burnout, or you know someone who else has. Just what did they try? What worked for them? There is no one recipe that's the solution to this. It's trial and error, what works for you, and getting support in the process. So please comment below. If you'd like more information, go to defeatburnout.com and check out that article, and I'll include the link below. So just remember, if you're going through burnout at the moment, you will recover. You're worthy. You are enough.